Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another lesson of Learning English with Julie. I'm Julie, and welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at two words and two words only, and those two words are whose and whose. So these two words sound the same, they are not spelled the same, and they have two complete different meanings. Let's switch over, get our little work screen as we always do, and we'll get started. Whose versus whose. Now, whose and whose are often confused in English, and understandably so, because they can be quite tricky to use at times. So let's see which one we should use. Whose is the contraction of who is. Like, who's that woman sitting at my desk? Which means, who is that woman sitting at my desk? Whose is also the contraction of who has. Now, you will be able to identify whether who is or who has is being used by the word or the verb that follows. So don't worry about that. As long as you know the little tricks, you'll be fine. So you always have to look at what is following the whose. So whose represents who has when using the past participle of the verb with the present perfect tense, like this. Who's taken the new electric bus? Which means who has taken the new electric bus. So you see the verb that follows, it's taken, which is the third column of your verbs, which is the past participle. Now, it'll always be like this, always. So when you have your past participle, you know you're working with who has, which is whose, and not who is. It'll always, 110% of the time be like this. Okay, whose may represent who is in the present progressive tense, as in who's talking during the movie, which means who is talking during the movie. So now you see the verb that follows is in the progressive tense. We did not use the past participle of the verb, so we absolutely know that it is who is and not who has. Okay? Now, whose, which is the same pronunciation, is the possessive form of who and is used to show to whom something belongs. Like if we say, whose car is in the driveway? So the question is, to whom does the car in the driveway belong? That's the question you have to ask yourself when using whose. Okay? So now study the following examples. Now I tried to make this as easy as possible for you guys because I know it's going to take some practice to learn this and to use these two words correctly. Okay, so if we say, who's been to Europe, which means who has been to Europe, right? We can only use has when we see the past participle of the verb that follows. Been is our past participle of the verb to be. So here I gave you the answer down here. It's the present perfect tense, and we use the past participle of the verb. Here's another sample sentence. I found a briefcase in the lobby and I didn't know whose it was, so I left it at the front desk. Question is, to whom did the briefcase belong? Now we're just showing possession with whose, and it was his or her briefcase. Who's knocking on the door at this hour? So we look at the verb that follows. It's in the ing form, which means it's in the present progressive. So we know that we are working with who is knocking on the door at this hour? Here's your answer, present progressive tense. This one, who's the author of that book? Which means, who is the author of that book? What's the verb that follows? There is no verb that follows. So it's a simple contraction of who is. Easy. Whose side are you on anyway? So we use whose. So we have to ask the question, you are on the side of whom, showing possession, his or her side. Who's taken the ferry across the lake? Look at the verb tense that follows. Past participle, which means who has taken the ferry across the lake, which is the present perfect tense, past participle of the verb. It doesn't matter whose fault it was, just make sure it doesn't happen again. Now here's again that word whose. Question is, it was the fault of whom, showing possession, his or her fault. Who's that guy standing by the window? What's the verb that follows? There's none. It's just who is that guy standing by the window? Simple contraction of who is. The police officer whose quick actions saved the drowning child was awarded the Medal of Bravery. Question is, the quick actions of whom? Showing possession, his or her quick actions. Being the police officer, whether it be a man or a woman, we don't know. Who's swum in Bob's pool before? So we know the irregular verb to swim, swam, swum. We know it's using the past participle. So we know that we are dealing with who has swum in Bob's pool before. Present perfect tense, past participle of the verb. This is starting to get easier and easier. Who's ready to start? Who is ready to start, which is a simple contraction of who is. Whose turn is it to deal the cards? It is the turn of whom to deal the cards, showing possession, his or her turn. Who's making all the noise downstairs? Who is making all the noise downstairs? Present progressive tense, we can see it in our verb, which ends in ing. So you are the new guy in the company. Stay close to me and I'll let you know who's who around here. I'll let you know who is who around here. That's just a simple contraction of who is. Mr. Burton is a teacher who's inspired many students over the years. Now here we have the verb that follows ending in ed, but it's not a simple past, it's still the past participle because you know that your regular verbs are the same in the past tense and using the past participle of the verb as well. So to inspire, inspired, inspired in your third column as well. So it's the past participle. Mr. Burton is a teacher who has inspired, blah, 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 many students over the years, which is the present perfect tense and the past participle of the verb. A teacher is a person whose professional responsibility is to plan, organize, and deliver educational material to learners. It is the responsibility of whom is our question. Showing possession, it's his or her responsibility. Who's in charge around here? Who is in charge around here? It's a simple contraction of who is. Who's got the time for cooking nowadays? Who has got the time for cooking nowadays? We see that little verb that follows, to get, got, present perfect tense using the past participle of the verb. Whose house is this? This house belongs to whom is the question, showing possession, his, her house. Who's played this game before? Who has played this game before? Same thing as the previous verb that we saw, ed ending, it's still the past participle, present perfect tense. Who's the Prime Minister of Canada? Who is the Prime Minister of Canada? Simple contraction of who is. Whose idea was it to stay at this shabby hotel? It was the idea of whom is our question, showing possession, his or her idea. Does it get any easier than that? No, it doesn't. It's so easy. By the way, if you don't know what this word means, shabby, to describe the hotel, you can look that up in your dictionary and then you will know. Good. So if that video helped you, you can put a little like on it. You can subscribe to my channel so that you know when I put up a new video to help you even more. If you guys need to improve your English and you want to do it quickly, you can get yourselves a copy of Basic English. This is the 3rd edition published by McGraw-Hill and available everywhere and of course on Amazon. So you guys can get a copy of that. You can start at the very beginning, work on every single page right through to the end of the book. The answer key is at the back to support you while you are learning. If you purchase this book and you just put it in your office, on your desk, or on a shelf, it will not help you. You actually have to work in it. You have to complete every single page right through to the end of the book. Guaranteed big improvement. If you're having difficulty with your loose papers all over your office, your verb tenses, you can get yourself a copy of English verb tenses. This is the same type of deal. You have to start on the very first page, work on every single page right through to the end of the workbook. The answer key is at the back to support you while you are learning. If you purchase it, leave it on the shelf. It will not help you. There's tons of really good stuff in here that will help you not just to perfect, but to master your English verb tenses, which so many of you have difficulty with because this is what you tell me. But it's really very easy. Just get a copy of that and work in it. Problem solved. Also, I have a new Facebook page where I put up lots of good stuff for the students, so you could go check that out. It's called Learn English with Julie Lachance on Facebook. So check that out. For now, I'm not going to prepare another lesson for you tonight. I'm going to go to the gym now. So I will see you guys, you know where, in the next lesson. So have a good night. Goodbye for now.